Now I would like to come to the subject of my story, and it's related to the happiness. And where one starts when one would like to research a subject. I think the way to start is definition. And there are many definitions of happiness. I find this one is the easiest to understand and the one which I buy into. And this definition says that happiness is a person's cognitive and affective regulation of his or her life. It looks very general. It's very difficult to grasp how I can use it in my life or how can you use it in yours. But you can take three important takeaways from this definition. It's not as vague as it seems. First, it's very subjective. Happiness is subjective. It's what you think about yourself. It's not what others think about you. Second, it implies evaluation, and evaluation requires criteria, meaning that if you research happiness, you need to look for the criteria of happiness. And third, it refers to the notion of life, and life has billions of definitions. Each branch of science develops its own definition of life. Psychologists, doctors, physics, chemists, they all have their own view on what the life is. But in the context of how you and I, how we live, life has a very simple and very plausible definition. Life, human life, is a history of events. This is the history of events or actions we undertake from the time when we are born and to the time when we demise. So that's what life is. But if life consists of individual actions, you need to search for the what happens with individual actions. The answer to the question, what does it mean to be happy or how can you be happy, is probably lying in the concrete actions, because life is just a sequence of actions. So if you want to be happy in life, you probably need to be happy with the activities you are engaged with. And there are two approaches to the science of happiness, and I would like to use the word science of happiness in real terms, because there are professors of happiness, there are institutes of happiness. I'm not exaggerating, so there is an institute of happiness in Copenhagen. There are laboratories of happiness. Every month there are more than 1,000 scientific papers published on the subject of happiness worldwide. So it's a big scientific community, and there are two approaches how one can look into the question of happiness. One is the conventional psychology approach, and what methods they use? They use three methods: words, and words. It's because I enjoyed this half an hour of my life. Mindfulness means that you need to live here now. Don't live in the future, live here now. And that's one of the tricks which open the door to happiness. Be kind, exercise acts of kindness as often as you can. Positive attitude, health and exercise. Igor, we just talked about that before the meeting. Adaptability and resilience. So, and I must admit, I would subscribe by all of this notion. This is good. So this is fine. And if one can implement that's probably a way to go. And when they started also to give you warnings, we often desire wrong things. So we desire something, we think that it will make us happy, we achieve that, but the happiness dissipates very quickly. I will come to this list on the next bullet point. We tend to compare ourselves to others. Do not compare yourself to others. We get used to good stuff. Again, you achieve something, you get a career promotion, you're very happy, you are very senior or very lead, and when eventually with time, okay, it's just senior, just lead, so what? It was quite a temporary increase in happiness. And very interestingly, they also say in a very direct way that prestigious jobs, money, possessions, true love, perfect body, good grades do not necessarily make us happy. And again, I would agree even with that. But when I read through these bullet points, when I try to analyze them, for some reason I get an image of the person who could have written that, and for me this is a middle-aged, Harvard professor. And I think if I was a middle-aged Harvard professor, that's probably a very good book of recipes of happiness. But if I'm a maid in a prison in California, or if I am a farmer in Venezuela, a welder in Japan, a member of the Hells Angel Club here in Oslo, or an engineer in Technip FMC, would this work for me? And I don't think so. I think we are somewhat more complex creatures. And this is a very good kind of starting position, but I don't see it as a universally applicable set of rules. So how do I want to approach, as I mentioned before, so this is the description of the conventional psychology approach, but how I would invite you to approach the science of happiness with the real science, not just with professors and universities, but we all know that the science is, first of all, is based on models. When we design pipelines, we don't design a prolonged circular object of the brown color or yellow color. We actually don't design pipelines at all. We operate with finite element models, which do not look like pipelines at all. Our corrosion models are just a set of equations. There is no pipeline in our corrosion models, but nevertheless we managed to design them with very good quality. So, as I mentioned to you, life is just a sequence of events or actions. So if you want to analyze happiness in life, you need to analyze, you need to dissect your life into individual activities, individual actions, and when from there, hopefully, we can derive criteria for happiness and the definition of happiness. And that's where I started. And again, remember this project phases diagram, and I was thinking how similar is it to the human behavior, and that's what kind of I came up with as a result of this project management course. And I said, I think we humans, we behave like that. First, we get a signal. The signal can be from outside or inside. And when we need to detect the signal, we miss most of the signals, either because we just miss them, we don't notice, or we don't have tools, mechanisms to detect them. So we cannot, for example, detect magnetic forces because we are not equipped with that. Metals can, we humans, we cannot. So after the detection is done, the next phase would be to appraise. Is this signal relevant to my life? Now I'll give you an example. So there is a glass wall here, and there are some people passing by. This is a signal, and I ignore it. I don't care. So, but if I notice it, even if I see a person and I notice, that's not relevant to my current existence, because now I'm here, now I'm presenting this magnificent presentation to you. But now imagine I turn right and I see a Kardashian sister standing. So now it's a real dilemma. How should I react? Is it? So I detected that. Now I need to go into the appraisal. Is it relevant or not? So it's a real serious case. It's my TikTok profile over there with millions of subscribers. So, or if I go there, I'll ruin my reputation. For my colleagues, if I stay here, when will I meet Kardashian sister next time? So that's difficult. So I need to define a plan. I need to do a risk analysis, reputation, TikTok, or whatever. So, and when I act, to be honest, I will leave. So, but they are not there. So we can continue. But this is how I see the process of human behavior. But remember we talked about evaluation. Remember we talked about the experience. So there are two extremely other important parameters in this process. How do we appraise? Do we need to engage in an action or we not? We appraise it because we have needs. We only act upon our needs. If an action or if a situation that is not related to our needs, we are not going to do much, or we are going to do nothing. And how do we develop a plan? The only reference we have is our experience and capabilities. That's it. So, meaning that now the situation becomes a little bit more complex. Yeah? And when the last but not least, after the act is completed, it generates feedback loops. which completely regenerates the situation we started at the beginning of the execution of actions. Our signals have changed. Yeah. So I went to Kardashian, it's a different situation, and so forth. But my needs changed. So if I satisfy the need is gone. We are humans, we actually nothing but a need-killing machine. That's what we, that's another definition of life. So you want to get rid of all your needs by satisfying them. So you do an act, you satisfy a need, you get avoiding needs, and new need most likely will come. And when you have to experience a new need and decide whether or not, or you can act on it, or well, what the hell you're supposed to do, and your experience is that each action enhances your experience. So next time you're involved, your signals are different, needs are different, experience is different, and you're out of balance again. And this can be depicted, the happiness in this way can be depicted on a very simple time diagram. So this is the happiness of my day. Each time I successfully satisfy a need, my happiness goes up. Each time I feel insatisfaction of needs, my happiness goes down. So for example, this is me before lunch, I had a lunch, I satisfied a need, my happiness increased. And that's how the whole day basically, that's how we go through the day. I don't have time to talk about it in great depth, but there are different kind of needs, and there are different types of happiness related to that. But here I would like just to point that there are two different kinds of happiness. And remember I said that when we do something, when we are dedicated to an activity at hand, we still have a wandering mind 50% of the time thinking about something else. And when we do this thinking something else, we inevitably establish a vision of how our life will be in the future. We established our understanding of how our life, even like a 7-year-old child knows that he or she will graduate from a school, probably go to university, probably marry because dad and mom are married. He knows that, or she knows that there will be a house where she lives. So our model, our prediction of our lives is actually quite good and improving with each generation. So we know about our future. We don't know, but we have a model or a prediction of the future. And that's the second component of the happiness. What do we think about ourselves in the future? Are we going to be happy in the future or not? And so you have two different kinds of happiness. You have momentary happiness, here now, which fluctuates all the time, and when you have your projected happiness, which is much more stable. So you think like, I'm eager, I will be like on a scale from 0 to 10 will be happiness level 7, sometimes in your PhD thesis every day, or have excellent career, career promotion every day. Do that, because the magnitude of these achievements will generate a better outcome for your level of happiness. The next 2 points are very similar to what I've just mentioned, the points 3 and 4 here, but I want to first say, we are humans, we react differently to negative and positive. We are much more centered on bad news rather than on good news. If you find 10 krona and you lose 10 krona, you will suffer from the latter much more. So that's why it's not just a balance. You cannot just balance bad things with good things. So there are different sort of, don't quote me on that, but in general, sort of, there is this perception that its ratio is 1 to 3. So basically, for each bad news, for each good news, for each bad news, you need three good news. Yeah. So that's why you need to assess your failures and satisfaction of needs separately. That's why you need to have other points. Decrease frequency in failures of the satisfaction of needs, because we are separate from the dissatisfaction is not balanced satisfaction, and decrease the magnitude of failures in satisfaction. It's try to make your failures as small as possible. And these 4 points are related to the momentary happiness, the one which we live here now. But remember, I told you that there is also a projected happiness, the happiness which you think you will have in the future, and it's not affected by the 4 points here. The fifth one is that increase the level of satisfaction with the likelihood of fulfillment of the future anticipated needs. So that's it. There is nothing more. Despite all the professors in Harvard and Yale, these are the 5 rules of happiness. So if you manage to implement them, you will be a very, very happy person. The problem is that they're still not tangible. So what do you do with this fear? It's like this finite element software model. Okay, but I don't know how to use it. I never used it. Or if I used it for a different application. So it's just, we are still in the modeling phase. But imagine now we all have a workshop, and it's really my dream one day to do a workshop on how this model can be applied in real life. So, but here I just simulated this workshop, and I applied these 5 principles to the actual strategies and tactics how can get happy in life. And this is not an exhaustive list. This is just an illustration of the idea. And these points, they are directly related to this to the process diagram of human behavior, which I showed you on the previous slide, and I will keep on showing it again and again. So, how can we increase the frequency, the magnitude of positive things? How we can decrease the frequency and the magnitude of the negative things, and how we can increase our self-belief that we will be happy in the future. And there are sort of, unlike this kind of the conventional psychology, I'm saying a completely different message. I'm giving a completely different message. There is no one universal list of recipes for it. There is no cookbook for happiness. It's all very, very individual. There is no one-size-fits-all solution. We all select consciously, subconsciously, accidentally, different types of strategies in pursuit of happiness. But let's just go through some of these examples. When I was at school, that was probably the most important strategy which I was taught by my parents, by my teachers. In order to be happy, a good, successful life, improve your skills. Get good grades, be a good son, respect the elders, and so forth. That's how I was indoctrinated when I was a bit younger. So improve your skills, that's one strategy. And indeed, it works. So imagine if you now acquire the capacity of the best sportsmen, the best thinkers in the world, your life probably will be a bliss. Another one, increase intensity of living. Remember this, increase the frequency of satisfaction of needs. That's what. So just pack your life, and again, if your ratio with the positive outweighs the ratio of the negative outcomes, that will have a positive outcome on your life. Downshift. Resign from Technique FMC, go to the monastery or establish a bakery. What happens there? You reduce the level of the complexity of life. You reduce the magnitude of the risk. You go into a much more predictable, kind of safe environment where you cater not for hundreds needs, maybe just for a dozen of needs. And if you love these needs, if they're kind of inner yours, that's the way to go, downshift. But it may not work for everybody. Ours would prefer to upshift, buy a parachute, jump with a parachute. It's not enough fun here in all our project lives and so forth. If you offer me to buy a parachute and to jump it, I guarantee there will be no increase in happiness. But I know, I'm sure there are people in this audience who just say, okay, that's good, that's great, let's do it tonight. Our challenges. Imagine if you have a controlling parents, or if you're mobbed at school, you develop a notion that social interactions are dangerous. Avoid social interactions. Withdraw from them. That's the happiness, pursuit happiness. But by doing that, you most likely create more problems long term in your life. But again, even bad things we do in our lives, they're very often done in the attempt to try to make us happy. In fact, I would say all the things which are happening around us, they're all done in the name of the pursuit of happiness. So, opposite, take more risks. The very good advice is balance challenges and the skills. So we were talking, improve your skills, achieve, be better, be better, be better. But maybe all you need to do is not be better per se, maybe you just need to balance what you can and what you want. And when this is a very sound idea, foster positive life attitude that will improve your projected happiness. And a very interesting one, do nothing, just hope for luck. And most of us actually, we probably do not accept it to ourselves, but most of, at least I do it all the time, you know. And if you analyze yourself, you'll probably say, okay, yeah, so I would like to improve my dating life. What I'm doing for that? I'm doing nothing. So now we're getting somewhere closer. Yeah, now we are on the same level as the conventional psychology. So I'm saying that this list is not infinite. I'm saying that this list, I don't know how long it is, maybe several dozens of strategies and tactics, maybe more than 100, but it's infinite. And if we conduct a very good workshop, we'll probably crack like 60–80%. But still, remember these warnings. So even if you achieve this, you achieve that, you will not get happy. So why don't we be happy? Why can't we happy? So there are so many recipes. I'm telling you the theory. Professors from Harvard have come up with thousands of books on how to do it. We are not happy because we are dynamically unstable system. So what is a dynamically stable system? It's a civil airplane. You take an SAS flight from, you take off from Oslo, you fly to Paris. Even if, God forbid, one engine fails, it will glide because it's just wings supported on the cushion of air. But if you take a military jet, which does fantastic things, it can fly upside down, it can fly upwards, downwards. If this one has an engine failure, it will drop like a stone on Earth because military jets are dynamically unstable. Civil jets are dynamically stable. They don't need to do much to survive, but military jet needs to apply a force all the time just to maintain its existence. If it stopped applying a force here now, the existence will cease. And that's what happens to us, to humans. That's why the pursuit of happiness is not just a walk in the park. And why do we get unstable? Because we get new signals. Kardashians passing by, my reputation went down. So new needs come from new situations and from age. So my needs now are different from what were my age when I was 2 years old or 14 years old. They're different human beings, but why? Because we have different needs, conflicting needs. I don't have time to talk about that, but let's say we have altruistic needs and egoistic needs. And we are both. We are egoist and altruist at the same time. And they are colliding. This is just one example. Insufficient skills, also, I'm the first one to admit that whoever tells you that they know how to be happy, probably they're not. And be very suspicious, probably they're actually a bit unhappy themselves. So I kind of, but still, I made this slide. I wanted to come as tangible, as close to our life as possible, based on this finite element model of happiness, call it, or a process diagram of happiness, probably a better analogy. And from what I've just told you, I think I dare to say there are two things which I am at least kind of certain in regards to the pursuit of happiness. Happy people need to balance needs and deeds. So the idea of the flow, for example, and so forth, it's not who is more happier, a Tour de France champion, an Olympic gold champion in bicycle racing, or a 6-year-old girl who just learned how to ride a bicycle. We don't know. So this is a tremendous achievement, one at a time. Nobody else can do that. This one, everybody, almost everybody, most of the people born would one way or another learn how to ride a bicycle. Which achievement is higher? So this one, which we all accept is just tremendous, or this one, which is very ordinary? The answer is that we don't know, but in many instances, a girl 6 years old will be happier because that's all not about the actual achievement, it's the calibration between needs and deeds. And the second thing I would like to say is, and I will use example of the project management course where I started with. We have a very good site and technique FMC called iLearn. You all have access to it. Go to this site and search for project management courses. Guess how many you will find? None. Not fun. None. You will, but you will find a lot of courses on project leadership. Yeah? So okay. What happened? What happened? Why did they send me to the project management course 10 years ago? And why it's all about project? And actually, the courses on project leadership, not all of them, but many of them are quite good. So what's the difference? The project management course is all about this: on time, on schedule, on scope, within the budget. Of course, as a project manager, you need to realize that you have some engineers in your work, you have some subcontractors, somehow you need to motivate them, you need to have a good planning, but this is kind of just a burden. It's all here. You will be judged on this part. Deliver, and you will excel. What is a project leadership course? It's still there, but it also includes all other stuff. The project leadership is the management of the process, and where motivation of people becomes a transition, a part of the overall success. So you realize that you will not be able to achieve a good project if you do not generate needs within your team, if you do not establish a collaboration structure, if you do not have a proper risk analysis environment, and so forth. So the difference, the aims are kind of almost the same, but project management is about act, project leadership is about the process, and why the process is superior. Why is it more important or better, let's say, to concentrate on a process philosophy rather than on an achievement philosophy? First of all, if your process works, you have good chances to succeed or excel in the act phase. But more importantly, by managing the process, you create the environment for your project, but also you can create for environment for reproduction of the success of the project. So the success brings success. So if you just succeed in one specific task, that's it. You succeeded, and as I said, maybe you can get even unhappy because of that. But if you establish an environment, a process, it can generate, it can bring your success on an individual project to success on the next project or other initiatives and so forth. That's the difference between project management and project leadership. But the problem here is that we don't have a word for self-leadership. But my message is that, so you all understand, so what the project management and project leadership. So approach yourself in the same way. Do not strive to only on achievements. Balance, approach yourself as a process. How you can do that, I cannot be more specific than that, but for a lack of a better word, I will call it self-leadership. So when you approach your life as a process and you manage yourself as a process, rather than judge yourself on the achievement. So this is something kind of I generated specifically for that session. I think it's probably time to end, and I would like just to say two things. First of all, thank you very much for your attention. Very grateful for your time, and have a happy day. Have a happy day, and from day, happy life, and so forth. This is my book, available on Amazon.com. Please feel free to buy. I will be very happy. If you have a team building, if you have your department group, and if you need an entertainment session or motivation session, remember my name, invite me. And what I presented to you is just a small fraction of what's in this book. We can talk about meaning of life, middle-age crisis, psychology of flow. You can just pick and choose. So once again, thanks a lot. Thank you.
I don't know. Any questions for you? Good.